Thank you, Anna. My name is Trond Hodne. I'm the Global Business Development Director in DNV Maritime. With us today, we have Ingvild Sæther, President and CEO of Altera Infrastructure. Altera has a fleet of FPSO, shuttle tankers, FSO, towing vessels, a unit for maintenance and safety, previously part of the TK group of companies. In addition to high focus on sustainability in the existing fleet, the company is investing significant resources into development of carbon capture and storage infrastructure. Then we have Paolo Tonon, Technical Director of Berge Bulk. Berge owns and manages a fleet of 80 fuel-efficient bulk carriers of various size. Next, we have with us Fredrik, Managing Director, Njord Solutions, a company founded by Maersk Tankers, with ambitions to become a catalyst for technology adoption with the aim to improve fleet performance and cut emissions. And last but not least, Adrian Macmillan, Head of New Energy Shipping in Woodside Energy. Woodside is a global energy company founded in Australia with a mission to provide the energy the world needs. Adrian is heading up Woodside shipping of new energy products, ammonia, liquid hydrogen and CO2, as well as supply of lower carbon ammonia marine fuels. So then starting with you, Ingvild, Altera is investing into sustainable solution with the latest advanced e-shuttle tankers. Can you please tell us about the solutions you have adopted? What is driving you towards making such investments? And also, what are the advantages and challenges in being an early adopter?
Yeah, as global leaders, I think we have an obligation to lean forward and really be part of the solution and not wait for regulations to come. So already in 2015, we started on the green shipping program with the collaboration of a big group of industry players to develop the next generation of shuttle tankers where you have very specific trading pattern. So you are a lot on dynamic positioning, less on steaming, which means that you need batteries and you need different power configuration. So with that start point, we really started from scratch and saw what is the best possible technical solution we can develop for this type of propulsion and fuel and power generation. It has been a journey. We ordered those ships in 2017, which at that point was really a revolution rather than just an evolution of shuttle tankers. It's diesel, electric, LNG, MGO. It has batteries. It has VOC emissions that can be captured and blended into the fuel, and it reduces the emissions by approximately 40%. But it has been a journey since those ships were delivered, because adopting new technology is not always simple. It has been a challenge to get all the systems to work together. There has been COVID with lack of technicians to travel on board the vessels. It has been a journey for the crew on board to develop the competence to operate these vessels at the most in the most efficient way. And it has also been a challenge to find the right business model with the customers, where there is a difference between the investment in the capex and the operating cost of the lifetime of the vessel. So maybe I'll stop there.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ingvild. Decarbonization and investing into new technologies is surely not an easy thing to do. Then over to you, Paolo. I mean, Berge Bulk has a clear plan to decarbonize your fleet of the 80 so bulk carriers.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, can you describe your plan and what's driving you to meet your targets, and maybe at the same time give us your view on what is really needed if we should speed up decarbonization?
Yes, thank you, Trond. Yeah, indeed, in Berge Bulk we have quite of an ambition program ahead of us. Few milestones that we like always to remember to ourselves. By 2025, becoming carbon neutral. By 2030, having the first zero carbon vessel in the water, and by 2050, having a full fleet of zero carbon vessels. And as you said, yes, we have roughly 80 vessels that we own and technically manage in-house, and the vast majority large vessels, Capes and VLOCs, and vessels that have quite a long life cycle. We are not asset trader in the company. We keep vessels for the entire life. We have to achieve so, I think, and especially starting with the first milestones of 2025 carbon neutral. We have been one of the first ship owner and operator here offering our customers carbon neutral voyages. So the possibility to offset also through a series of highly recognized and certified programs to offset the emissions of the different voyages. And that will definitely be needed when the target is coming so close in time. But we have fundamentally 4 pillars that we use to achieve our targets. First and foremost important is to have an continuous attention to energy efficiency. Since 2008, in our fleet, we have improved the annual efficiency ratio by 46% in average in the fleet. And that comes obviously with newer tonnage, more modern, better design, more efficient engines, better design hulls and propellers. But also we have digitalized quite heavily our fleet with new tools to design the best voyages, new tools to look after the performances of each and every single energy consumer on board the vessels. So to spare each and every gram of fuel in being burned. The second part is definitely looking into energy efficiency technologies. And we have been the first to launch new Castelmax vessels this past summer with rigid wings. These are wings that will be able to cut easily 15% plus the fuel consumption of the vessel. The vessel is deployed on the trade between Brazil and China, so normally a trade where you can find a certain abundance of wind. But we are also testing and we are sailing with vessel with air lubrication. We have used a lot shaft generators, and we will continue to retrofit those technologies because it makes very much sense and it reduce the overall emissions. Third pillar is definitely looking into alternative fuels. And we have been working with biofuels and testing successful in a number of vessels and having voyages with 100 grade of biofuels. We are looking very actively into methanol, into ammonia as future fuels, and discussing with our customers and with our partners on the different strategies on how to implement these fuels that most likely will happen with new builds in the near future. And last but not least, we are definitely looking as a fourth pillar on carbon capturing. Because at the end of the day, the fleet we are having will be, yes, renewed from now till 2050, but we need to take care in the journey from now till 2050. And that cannot happen without capturing part of the emission that are related still to hydrocarbon fuels that we will continue to burn. And I think it's a complex portfolio of different activities, because at the end of the day, the bread and butter for Berge Bulk is definitely to manage in a safe, in a reliable, and in a sustainable way the fleet of vessels and deliver the promises that we have given to our customers. So what we do to decarbonize comes very much on top. And you asked, what would we need to speed up the decarbonization? I think in a segment like dry bulk, the one we are working in Berge Bulk, we are a bit more distance from the end customer. So the pressure is definitely not the same that the one we have seen in the container industry, for instance. I think there is still a work that needs to be done to align the different players. I think the cost for decarbonizing are immense, not only in CapEx, but definitely also in OpEx, when in the future you will burn the new fuels. And these costs cannot reside in one player only. So we need to have those business models that will allow to spread the investments throughout the entire chain.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Paolo. It's really impressive, I must say, what you have been done in Berge Bulk, and you have done quite a lot on energy efficiency measures. That gives a nice transition to you, Fredrik, because investing into fuel efficiency measures, I believe, is already a strong business case, and it will be even stronger when we need to adopt to low and zero carbon fuels, which will have a higher cost of conventional fuels naturally. So from your view then, if we have a forceful implementation of energy efficiency measures in the world's fleet, everything that is known, how far do you believe that will take us with the need to, or before we need to go to low or zero carbon fuels? And also, what are the main technologies that you see that can really make a big difference?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Trond, and thanks for the lineup, Paolo. Very impressive to hear what you have been up to in Berge Bulk. So first of all, I mean, it is these initiatives and these learnings from companies like Berge Bulk that we also have had in Maersk Tankers and the wider Maersk that we've taken into Njord to propel and to be the catalyst for other owners to do similar things, because this is what really matters, and this is what can move the needle both now, but also will enable decarbonization long term and enable the adoption of these new green fuels. Forceful implementation, I hope that won't be the case. I mean, I hope there are also some good incentivizing to be done for the owners, so we'll see a natural implementation. And the interesting thing is actually, we've seen a quite interesting trend from 22 to 23 and now stepping into 24. In 22, there was a lot of talk about the new green fuels and the vessels to carry those, but also recognizing that it will take a long time. Whereas 2023, we've seen the wider conversation in the industry focusing a lot on energy efficiency technologies, stating that this is the thing to do both here and now, but also the enabler long term. And then when we move into 2024, I think we will actually see that this will be the year of significant action when it comes to energy efficiency technologies. We have a number of moving parts, both direct and indirect commercial incentives. We have the first true CII reporting happening based on the 2023 numbers. We have the true or first example of a carbon taxation through the EU ETS. And then we have good examples of, for instance, the RightShip rating suddenly dropping the EPL as a way to improve your greenhouse gas rating. So suddenly you have to look for other measures. And those are some of the elements that will push the industry to adopt more technologies. Now, from Njord's perspective, and one of the reasons why we founded Njord was that we could actually see that there's a big gap between what can actually be done with different technologies and what is being done. There are more than different 40 elements of technologies that you can apply, but the industry has not really embraced the full scale yet. So when we look at the different technologies, even the basic stuff now, we heard Paolo talk about air lubrication, wind technology, even carbon capture. But there are actually a significant number of low-hanging fruits, basic technologies, well proven, that if you combine them in the right constellation, they can actually deliver in a combination more savings than traditional we've seen with some of the wind technologies for air lubrications. And this is what we push for as the very first thing. So on average, 9 to 10 technologies on the vessels we worked with so far is what we find relevant, and that has brought somewhere around 10 to 12% savings on the vessels that we have worked on across the main segments in shipping. If you then add some of the more novel stuff that Paolo is referring to, we've seen examples both of wind and air lubrication in combination with each other and the basic technologies. Then we're pushing beyond 20% savings and even pushing close to 30. And so that's quite significant and really a big impact we can make. And to answer your last part of the question, so which technology is it then that will win the race? The simple question is there's no one technology that will stand alone and win the race. It will be a combination of the many. So it is figuring out for your fleet with the different vessels and the different technologies available, what is the right combination of technologies vessel by vessel for the different trading routes. Again, mentioning that wind is not applicable everywhere in the world, and figuring out what is the right combination. That will allow you to increase the savings, and it will also allow you to improve the return on investment. Some of the more novel stuff out there today has a high return on investment that's difficult for the owner to get funding for or for a charter to pay for. But if you combine it with some of the low-hanging fruits, which has a short return on investment, then the average return on investment can be quite attractive, and suddenly the business case is quite positive, especially if you add on the upside of CII ratings and the EU ETS. So to answer your question, we can see quite some high savings potentials, and the right technology or the winning technology will be the combination of many.
Thank you very much, Fredrik, for those insights. And over to you, Adrian. So energy efficiency, I guess we can see as an enabler for eventually adopt over to low and zero carbon fuels. And eventually we will have to, if we are going to decarbonize shipping completely. So what do you see as the roadmap to commercialization, adoption, and reliable availability of these fuels at the scale needed?
Yeah, thanks, Trond. As I think, as my colleagues here today have outlined, there's a number of parameters and that we need to work and collaborate with multiple parties across the supply chain here. So there's many global industry efforts underway looking at how do we get these technical, commercial and regulatory elements all combined together, particularly on the Green Corridor efforts. So Woodside, we're a participant in the Getting to Zero Coalition Iron Ore Task Force, as well as Silk Alliance and the Centre for Zero Carbon Shipping activities there. And those are really good vehicles and good technical and regulatory progress is being made there. But the challenge then becomes the affordability of these transitions. And that's what we're tackling today. And efficiency is absolutely vital for this. Is we need to, these will be more expensive fuels in the future. And how do we minimize that cost burden? And that comes through efficiency there. So it's fantastic to see also good progress with dual fuel vessels being ordered, as illustrated on the DNV AFI dashboard. Unfortunately, those dual fuel vessels doesn't necessarily translate into a demand volume. So as a future fuel producer is, and ammonia in this case, is the demand signals, there's lots of interest, but they're not firm demand signals. And Woodside, we've committed back in 2021 to spend up to $5 billion in investment of these new lower carbon energy services by 2030. But how do we push forward with those investments? We're making really good progress there, but we're stuck in this loop at the moment where we've got this potential future demand for, say, ammonia or liquid hydrogen. But to make those decisions, we really need to get clarity of the where, when, how much, how frequently, and what is the carbon intensity of that delivered product. Even a theoretical zero carbon intensity produced product needs to be shipped. And when it's put on a ship, it requires a carbon intensity. So how do we work with all of the parties to understand the full well to tank requirements and then reflect that into our production there? And with that sort of burden on the industry with the increased fuel costs, then we need those market-based mechanisms to really help level the playing field, because everyone needs to remain competitive within that landscape. And there needs to be some of that funding from the market-based mechanism to support and enable those across the supply chain to allow these transitions to occur, because we need to move to these lower carbon fuels in the future there. So working with our customers is really important here, and all of the participants across the supply chain, understanding, answering those questions of the where, when, how much, how frequently, and carbon intensity there.
Thank you, Adrian. I think you touched upon this a bit already, about affordability. What will be the cost? How affordable will these fuels be? And also during the transition, how do you foresee that we will close the price gap towards conventional fuels?
Yeah, that's a really tricky question. I think that's what everyone is trying to tackle across the industry there. It's no small measures here, and it's going to take various factors. I think, as Paolo mentioned before, how do we share the risks across the supply chain? How do we understand those risks across the supply chain? And then the various returns across those investment decisions there, and how do we balance that out, moving from a spot market procurement type process to a longer term commitment. And those longer term commitments, at least in the near term, and I'm talking say 2030 type timeframe, is going to be required for the investment decisions to be made. By 2050, hopefully we're back into a spot market. There's large volumes of these future fuels available. But in order to tackle this 2030 question, then that competitive gap is the fuel costs. And I'm talking about any of these, whether it's a biofuel, a methanol, ammonia, or a liquid hydrogen, they're going to probably be of the order of 3 to 5 times the fuel costs. And so finance can help, risk sharing can help, terms of duration of contracts can all help, but they're all small factors. It really comes down to that market-based mechanism. And the European Union, of course, are making strong progress in that space, and that is driving demand and expectations. But we need a global policy here to really have clarity on the life cycle analysis requirements, the expectations, and how then a global shipping industry can work within that space. So I think that's for me, is how does the industry move forward collectively rather than having broken policies across the various world, which then puts the burden back onto the ship owner as they're trying to navigate these waters.
Thanks, Adrian. Then we have the question on the blue and the green fuels. Do you see a difference in interest in the market for the green and the blue, or is it just carbon intensity that will matter? And also, do you believe there will be a big price difference in the market for these two type of fuels?
Yeah, that's an excellent question there, Trond. Thank you for that. If I reflect back 12 months ago, the conversation was very much about green, 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 but many of the parties not truly understanding what that meant. But we've seen quite a transition over the last 12 months where not just the shipping industry, but also power generation and other customers are now talking about the carbon intensity with credible numbers that people can work towards. Largely because a gas-based, Woodside, we try to stay away from the colours because colours aren't particularly helpful, easy to use as a term, but it doesn't necessarily give you the clarity of the carbon intensity of those future fuel products there. So we work on that parameter, but then if you look at a gas-based with CCS solution, blue in the old vernacular, that's significantly cheaper than a renewable-based solution, particularly when we've got a 2030 focus here. It's very easy to look at learning cost curves and look at that 2050 solution, and the world needs to move to that renewable-based solution by 2050. But how do we get a cost-effective transition? So coming back to that increased fuel cost, we need to do whatever we can to meet the lower carbon intensity from well to tank requirements with the minimum cost as possible. And at this stage, we see a lot of interest in our gas-based plus CCS options compared to our 100% renewable options. We can offer both to the market, but we certainly see that strong interest in the lower carbon options with the gas-based and CCS solutions there. Again, it requires that conversation with the customers. The customers here are wide. It includes the ship owner or the cargo owner, the OEMs, and downstream from those, because ultimately those costs need to be passed through that full value chain, and as well as the understanding of what is actually being procured and used as the fuel there. It's not a simple conversation, but it requires that close collaboration with all of those stakeholders on that supply chain.
Yeah, thank you very much, Adrian. And that concludes our debate. So thank you all for participating and sharing your insights. So then back to you, Anne, in studio.